Isaac Rennard had three things going for him: a degree in human nutrition, a dogged curiosity that got him fired from 2 food labs, and a stubborn habit of asking what if at the worst possible times. He was halfway through a peanut butter sandwich in his cluttered kitchen in Seattle when the call came in from the Interstellar Academic Exchange Program. "Mr. Rennard," said the woman on the other end, "we've reviewed your proposal for cross-species metabolic adaptability. You've been selected." "Pack for 3 months." Isaac blinked, sandwich paused mid-bite. "Sorry, what? You're real? Your shuttle arrives in 29 minutes. The line went dead. 29 minutes later, a gleaming shuttle with no discernible propulsion system hummed silently into view above Capitol Hill. Isaac barely had time to shove a duffel bag full of protein bars, a tablet, and a pair of hiking boots into his bag before the shuttle doors opened with a quiet hiss. He stepped inside, breath caught between thrill and disbelief. The shuttle barely trembled as it accelerated. Through the window, Earth shrank into a dot. Isaac sat across from a glossy black console that projected a rotating image of what looked like a skeletal praying mantis wearing a lab coat. Labels cycled beneath it. "Professor Zhorl, Exo-Biometabolic Sciences, Yalex University." Isaac leaned forward. "So this is who I'm helping," the console beeped in affirmation. The ship arrived at Yalex Prime in under 3 hours, though Isaac's internal clock insisted he'd been traveling for over a day. Gravity felt slightly lighter, the air like breathing menthol. He was escorted briskly through sterile corridors lined with translucent panels that showed other humans and alien species working in adjacent labs. But Isaac wasn't taken to a lab. He was taken to a medical bay. Professor Zhorl lay on a cushioned table, surrounded by 4-legged assistants monitoring dozens of fluctuating readouts. The alien's body was thin, spindly, and quivering. Its skin had a pale shimmer, as though its blood was made of crushed pearls. A translator device on its neck blinked blue. "You are Rennard," Zhorl said. Its voice came out in a stuttered approximation of English, like a synthesizer learning to sing. "I am. What's the emergency?" "I must complete metabolic shift by end of moon cycle. Body failing to adapt to nutrient profile. No viable replacements found." "I die without solution." Isaac set his bag down. "That gives us what, 26 days? 23. Isaac's stomach flipped. "What exactly is your metabolic requirement?" Zhorl blinked. "My species evolved on Yalex Delta's twin suns. We require sustained energy release at a rate 8 times higher than human caloric processing. Your term, hypermetabolic equilibrium." Isaac pressed his fingers to his temples. 8 times. "So you need the energy output of a human marathon runner but sustained all day?" Zhorl's head nodded once. "Without generating internal heat. Traditional combustion-based digestion fails. We overheat." Isaac rubbed his mouth. "Okay. First, I need to see what you've been eating." Zhorl gestured to a chamber to the left. Inside, dozens of nutrient packs floated in suspension, each labeled in alien script. Isaac opened one and sniffed. It smelled like wet cardboard and seaweed. "Who made these?" he asked. "Faculty Nutrition Division, based on extrapolated needs. All failed." Isaac turned to one of the assistants. "Bring me a sample scanner, thermal monitor, and digestive breakdown chart. I need to run a full analysis." Over the next 6 hours, Isaac cataloged every nutrient pack, cross-referenced it with Zhorl's vital signs, and tested them against simulated digestion. The results were worse than he expected. The packs delivered short bursts of energy, but the digestion process triggered thermal spikes, which Zhorl's body couldn't handle. He sat on the floor next to the console, exhausted. "This isn't going to work," he muttered. Zhorl tilted its head. "Then I die." Isaac looked up. "Not yet, you don't." He spent the next 10 days running simulations, testing human food structures, and working with a Yalexian biochemist named Ven. Ven was roughly the size of a golden retriever and had a smooth, amphibian-like body. He communicated via a handheld translator that buzzed like a mosquito. "You humans use glucose and fat," Ven said. "I read your papers. You proposed hybrid nutrient matrices." "Yeah," Isaac said. "The idea is to bypass digestion stages. Deliver energy through stabilized enzymes and direct cellular uptake." Ven blinked both sets of eyelids. "Impossible." Isaac raised an eyebrow. "You want to bet?" He built the first prototype diet plan using a gel base that combined structured lipids with modified glucose chains. The energy would absorb slowly, releasing over time without heat spikes. The key was stabilizing it with a plant enzyme found in a Yalaxian root vegetable, something no one had thought to combine with human nutrient theory. The first test was a disaster. Zhorl's body rejected the gel within minutes. Isaac barely managed to stabilize the professor's vitals with the help of 2 panicked medics. "You will kill me faster than starvation," Zhorl said after recovering. Isaac didn't argue. He spent 12 hours revising the formula, then another 6 hours collecting new samples from the outer gardens of the university, dense with red moss and tubular plants that looked like inflated noodles. He tested and retested the enzyme interactions until the mixture passed the simulated digestion test without triggering heat spikes. The second trial began with a single teaspoon. Zhorl swallowed it, then waited. Minutes passed. The monitors remained stable. An hour later, Zhorl sat up. "I feel clarity," Isaac grinned. "That's glucose in your brain." By the end of the second week, Zhorl was consuming half a liter of the gel per day. His vitals improved. He began walking again, then returned to lecturing in short bursts. The university buzzed with curiosity. But on day 17, a problem emerged. Zhorl collapsed mid-lecture. Isaac rushed to the medical bay. "He's metabolizing too fast," Ven said. "Heart rate unstable." Isaac scanned the readings. "The base is degrading too quickly. His body's adapting again. I need to change the matrix." He spent the next 3 days working around the clock, swapping the gel base for a microbead suspension that could pass through the digestive tract more slowly. He added binding agents that mimicked cellular energy storage in human liver cells. The third prototype held. Zhorl stabilized. By day 21, he was not only walking, he was dancing. Literally. Isaac found him in the courtyard attempting an awkward spinning gesture. Zhorl's translator buzzed. "Expression of vitality, cultural motion." Isaac laughed. "You're twerking." Zhorl paused. "Twerking? Never mind." On day 23, the faculty gathered to evaluate the results. Zhorl stood before them, posture strong, eyes bright. "I am alive," he said, "because of Rennard." Isaac stood off to the side, arms crossed, trying not to yawn. "He hadn't slept in 36 hours, Zhorl continued. "He constructed a new dietary paradigm from alien enzymes and human metabolic theory, a cross-species solution, elegant, functional, repeatable." The dean of the university, a bulbous creature with translucent skin, turned to Isaac. "You will publish this work." "I'll need a few months," Isaac said. "I want to make sure the long-term effects are stable." "Stay," the dean said. "We will fund your lab." Isaac hesitated. "I have a dog back home." Zhorl stepped forward. "We will send him treats." Isaac laughed. "Deal." But before he could shake on it, he stumbled. The medics caught him just before he hit the ground. "You are exhausted," Ven said, scanning him. "Yeah," Isaac said, eyes closing. "Turns out I'm not on a super diet." He spent the next 3 days in a recovery bed, hooked up to a nutrient Roman 4. The medics ran tests, confirming dehydration, mild muscle breakdown, and a cracked rib likely from a fall during one of the lab shifts he didn't remember. "Cracked rib?" he muttered. "How the hell?" "Your body collided with a storage unit," Ven said. "You refused treatment at the time," Isaac groaned. "That tracks." He stayed immobile for a week, no walking, no lifting. Zhorl visited daily, bringing updates and occasionally awkward attempts at human humor. "Knock knock," Zhorl said once. Isaac raised an eyebrow. "Who's there?" "Gel." "Gel who?" Zhorl paused. "I do not know. Joke incomplete." Isaac chuckled despite the pain in his side. When he finally stood on day 10 post-injury, he moved slowly, ribs wrapped tightly. But he could breathe easier, and the medics approved light activity. Zhorl greeted him with a container. "I have improved your gel," he said. "Added flavor." Isaac tasted it. "Is this cinnamon?" Zhorl nodded. "Cultural exchange," Isaac smiled. "Now it's a real diet." Isaac stood in front of the lab's thermal regulation chamber, holding a tub of Zhorl's newly flavored metabolic gel and trying not to sneeze. The air in this section of the university had a dry, peppery quality, thanks to the Yalaxian humidity filters that misted a fine powder of mineral salts into the atmosphere every 30 seconds. Supposedly, it maintained optimal moisture equilibrium for species with chitinous exoskeletons. For humans, it just made the sinuses complain. "Why do the filters smell like burnt oregano?" he asked, rubbing under his nose with the back of his wrist. "They do not," said Ven, who was perched on a stool beside the monitoring console. "That is a human sensory hallucination. The compound is odorless. It's making my eyeballs itch. Then your eyeballs are hallucinating." Isaac opened the container. The cinnamon scent hit him again, stronger this time, and he nearly gagged. "You used the wrong kind of cinnamon," he muttered, poking at the gel with a testing rod. "There are kinds," Kasha versus True Ceylon. "One tastes like Christmas. The other tastes like someone dared to weaponize tree bark." Zhorl entered through the automatic seal, limbs moving with careful grace. He was wearing a new harness that supported his upper thorax and allowed for finer balance control and innovation from the engineering department that had taken a special interest in his recovery. The harness blinked with faint blue lights as it adjusted his posture. "I have begun sweating again," Zhorl said. "Which is unfortunate," Isaac blinked. "You didn't before." We vapor cool through dermal folds, but the process had ceased during metabolic decline. Now it resumes, but now it is damp. That's just sweat. "Welcome to the club. I do not enjoy membership." Isaac handed him a spoonful of the new batch. Zhorl examined it, then tilted his head. "This color is concerning. It's turmeric." "I'm experimenting with anti-inflammatory additives." Zhorl sniffed it, though Isaac had no idea what that accomplished given the Yalaxian nasal chamber was internal. "Smells like garden soil." "Good. That means it's working." Zhorl consumed it and stood silently for several seconds. Then he blinked both eyes slowly and exhaled through his neck valves, a sound that Isaac had learned was equivalent to a contemplative sigh. "I shall not perish from this flavor." High praise. Ven chirped from the console. "Absorption rate is consistent. No thermal spike. Liver analog shows stable processing." "Perfect," Isaac said, flipping his tablet around. "Next, we try a full dietary replacement cycle." Zhorl turned. "You mean to eliminate my other sustenance? You're still taking in trace calories from the university's baseline supplements." "I want to see what happens when we go 100% human hybrid gel. If your system can handle it, we'll have an actual solution." The professor tapped his chest twice, a gesture Isaac had come to associate with reluctant agreement. "I will comply. But if I begin convulsing, I expect you to document it thoroughly." "I'll bring popcorn." Ven looked up. "Popcorn? Don't worry about it." Over the next 3 days, Zhorl consumed nothing but the metabolic gel. Isaac adjusted the dosage ratios every 12 hours based on continuous readouts. The most critical challenge was maintaining the energy plateau without triggering systemic stress. By day 2, Zhorl's body temperature had risen by half a degree, which in Yalaxian terms bordered on febrile. "We're close to the limit," Ven warned, tapping the central monitor with a suction digit. "Any higher and we risk enzymatic runaway." "I'll dial back the medium-chain lipids," Isaac said. "That should slow the absorption just enough." Zhorl, meanwhile, had begun teaching again, albeit from a seated position. Isaac stood at the back of one of his lectures, watching a room of Yalaxian students blink and twitch in synchrony as he explained comparative nutrient mechanics. Human digestive systems, Zhorl intoned, are an exercise in aggressive adaptability. They can extract energy from substances that would kill lesser species. For instance, they voluntarily consume fermented byproducts and still function. A student raised an appendage. They consume rot. They call it cheese. Murmurs rippled through the room. Later that evening, Isaac walked Zhorl back to the lab. "You're becoming a bit of a celebrity," Isaac said. "I heard someone refer to you as the gel ascendant." Zhorl clicked his teeth. "I do not understand the fascination. I merely survived." "Well, surviving something that was supposed to kill you tends to get people's attention. I was unaware survival could be fashionable. You should see our reality shows." Back in the lab, Venn was waiting with a new set of enzyme markers. He looked more agitated than usual. "There's an anomaly," he said. "Your gut flora's shifting." Zhorl tilted his head. "I do not possess flora. My digestive tract is sterile by design." "Not anymore," Venn said. "Something's colonizing it, a microbe from the gel. It's bonding with your mucosal lining." Isaac immediately pulled up the compound breakdown. "Which additive?" "I believe it's the turmeric strain. It carried trace human-compatible probiotics. We thought they were inert." Zhorl's limbs stiffened. "I have internal passengers. They're helping," Isaac said quickly. "They're actually stabilizing your sugar uptake. You're accidentally developing a symbiotic relationship. I do not want guests. You may not have a choice. If we remove them, your energy conversion could collapse again." Zhorl backed toward the wall. "This is grotesque. It's biology. You're adapting just like we do." Zhorl remained still for a long moment. Then he walked to the observation window and stared out at the glowing moss fields beyond the university walls. "I have been many things in my life," he said, "but never a habitat." Isaac stepped beside him. "You're still you. Just with roommates." They stood there in silence for a while, the only sound the faint hum of the filters misting another round of mineral salts. The next morning, Isaac was woken by a loud chime on his lab cot. Venn was standing over him, holding a printout. "New readings," he said. "The microbes are producing byproducts. Good ones or bad ones, unclear. They're creating a compound we can't identify, but it's stabilizing Zhorl's blood sugar with uncanny precision." Isaac sat up. "So they're not just helping, they're refining the gel." Venn nodded. "We are witnessing co-evolution in real time." Isaac wrestled his boots on. "Then we need to figure out what they're making, fast." It took them another 4 days to isolate the compound. The microbes, it turned out, had synthesized a form of polysaccharide binder that slowed glucose release even more effectively than Isaac's original formula. The substance was completely novel, no record of it in any Yalaxian or human database. Venn stared at the molecular model on the screen. "This could be the basis for a whole new class of energy stabilizers." Isaac leaned back, "and it came from a spice cabinet." Zhorl entered the lab mid-conversation, having heard only the tail end. "Are we still discussing my internal squatters?" "Your squatters are geniuses," Isaac said. "They've improved the recipe." Zhorl raised a hand. "They are not chefs, they are invaders. They're fixing your metabolism. You're alive because of them. At some point you have to stop calling them invaders." Zhorl was quiet, then he tapped his chest twice. "Very well, I shall consider them." "Tenants, progress." Venn's console beeped. "Zhorl's vitals are optimal, no spikes in 3 days." Isaac exhaled. "Then we've done it. The diet works." Zhorl sat on a reclining bench, folding his limbs neatly. "I was scheduled to expire last week," he said. "Instead, I have energy. I have students, I have intestinal artisans. You have a second chance." "Do humans often do this?" "What, save people?" "No, turn accidents into revolutions." "All the time," Isaac said. "It's kind of our thing." It was the 3rd week since Zhorl had gone fully onto the adapted metabolic gel, and the lab had shifted from a triage bay to something more like a research greenhouse. The translucent wall panels now displayed slow, looping animations of molecular bonding patterns, Zhorl's idea for ambience. Isaac had stopped questioning his aesthetic preferences after the second time. A Yalexian student described the Daker as soothingly computational. Isaac sat at the side bench, elbows deep in a nutrient mixer, adjusting the viscosity of the latest batch. The last trial showed a minor drop in sodium levels over 72 hours, nothing dangerous, but enough to tweak. He added a microdose of potassium chloride and stirred carefully with a sterilized bone spatula, provided by the biochemistry department with a note that it symbolized collaborative digestion. Zhorl was upside down on a suspended frame nearby, ankles clamped in soft restraints. It was apparently the most restful position for his species when regulating hemolymph pressure after energy intake. His harness blinked in a slow, steady rhythm. "Your species uses sodium recreationally," Zhorl said, watching Isaac measure a sample into a vial. "You salt your food for enjoyment." "Sure do," Isaac replied. "In moderation, too much and your kidneys start writing passive-aggressive notes to your heart. I find it alarming. You enjoy taste at the risk of organ damage. Welcome to humanity. We'll risk cardiac arrest if it makes dinner slightly more exciting." Zhorl's limbs twitched in mild disbelief. "You evolved in a planetary environment with predation, climate extremes, and inconsistent food sources. And yet you developed cuisine as a leisure activity." Isaac sealed the vial and loaded it into the centrifuge. "If you survive long enough, you get bored, and then you start frying things." Venn entered the lab from the south corridor, carrying a portable monitor. He looked unusually tense, his skin pulsing with a faint violet hue between the folds. "We received a request from the Inter-Campus Advisory Board," he said, extending the monitor toward Isaac. "They want the full nutrient profile and microbial lineage of the gel." "All ready." Isaac wiped his hands on his lab coat. "I was going to submit the final report next week. They're accelerating the review. Several medical departments submitted inquiries after Zhorl's last public lecture. Apparently, the term biosymbiotic dietary architecture is trending." Zhorl slowly rotated in his harness. "I did not invent that phrase." Venn blinked his inner eyelids. "You said it during the question period, while describing your improved memory retention." "I was improvising. Regardless, it's become the label." Isaac took the monitor and paged through the request. "They want strain identification, enzyme behavior, and replication data, all doable. But they also want a human trial." Venn's eyes narrowed. "We did not authorize that. They didn't ask. They're requesting a voluntary submission." Zhorl flipped himself upright and stepped down from the harness. "Your body is still recovering." "I'm not volunteering," Isaac said. "I've been living off freeze-dried crackers and nutrient cubes. I don't trust my gut flora to behave in front of a committee." Venn edged closer. "Then we need a control subject, preferably one with no existing metabolic disorders." Isaac sighed. "There are only 2 humans on this campus. And the other one still thinks kombucha is a valid breakfast." Zhorl paced slowly, his harness adjusting to each step. "Then perhaps we do not need a human." Venn tilted his head. "You propose a cross-species reverse trial." Zhorl turned to Isaac. "You developed this using human frameworks. But its efficacy is species agnostic. If it proves beneficial to others, the board will have no grounds to demand further tests on you." Isaac leaned back against the bench. "That's true. But who do you have in mind?" Zhorl activated the console and pulled up a roster. "There is a visiting team from the Shintari Institute. Their physiology is partially glycomorphic, similar enough to humans in carbohydrate processing. They're the ones with the segmented thoraxes and double-lobed stomachs, right?" "Correct. They also suffer from fluctuating energy retention. If this gel stabilizes them, it validates the hypothesis." By midday, the first Shintari volunteer had arrived. She introduced herself through a vocalizer embedded in her thorax, and the translator rendered it in a flat but steady cadence. "I am Friss. I consent to ingestion for study. I require a non-acidic blend." Isaac prepared a version with neutral pH and reduced spice content. She consumed it calmly, then reclined on a padded mat while vitals were monitored. After 2 hours, her core temperature had risen by less than half a degree, and her energy indicators showed a consistent plateau. "This is unprecedented," she said. "I have not experienced equilibrium since adolescence." Isaac raised an eyebrow. "What do you normally eat?" "Compressed starch wafers. They taste of ground ceramics." "Well, this probably tastes like garden mulch, but it works." Friss tapped a segment of her thorax. "I request a sample for my nestmate. We'll send you home with a week's supply." Over the next 3 days, 4 more Shintari volunteers completed the trial. All showed similar results: improved energy levels, reduced thermal fluctuation, and no sign of microbial rejection. The university's Internal Ethics Board released a statement confirming the early success of the multi-species metabolic protocol. The advisory board's request for human trials was quietly withdrawn. Isaac sat in the lab kitchen with Zhorl and Venn, watching the sunset filter through the moss fields outside. The gel samples were lined up on the counter like condiments, each a different hue, each labeled in Yalaxian script with a tiny human translation beneath. Zhorl stirred a cup of amber gel with a narrow rod. "I have not collapsed in over 20 days. This is a record." "I haven't had a panic attack since the lab stopped setting off smoke alarms," Isaac said. "We're both healing." Venn tapped his tablet. "The Shintari Institute has requested rights to replicate the gel under license. They offered to name the formula after its creator." Zhorl looked up. "Rennardine compound? Sounds like a cleaning product," Isaac said. "How about just Z-blend?" "Simple, clinical, and you get top billing." Zhorl hesitated, then gave a slow nod. "Acceptable?" Isaac pushed back from the table. "So, we've stabilized your metabolism, passed interspecies trials, and dodged committee oversight. I think that wraps it." Venn adjusted his translator. "You are returning to Earth." "Yeah, I miss sidewalks and weather, but I'll keep the lab connected. I want progress reports." Zhorl tilted his head. "And your canine companion, probably overweight from all the treats you promised." "I will send a corrective dietary supplement. Please don't." "He once ate an entire tennis ball. Subtlety is not his strength." Venn stood. "Your shuttle departs in 48 hours. I will arrange transport." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the moss, Isaac walked the perimeter of the university grounds. He passed students, some Yalaxian, some from species he still couldn't name, studying in clusters. A few of them eating from gel packs with quiet concentration. Zhorl joined him near the outer gardens, where the air smelled of mineral-rich soil. "You altered the course of interspecies nutrition," he said. "I just didn't want you to die." "That too, but the solution you created will outlive both of us." Isaac looked up at the twin moons rising. "Guess I'll have to start charging royalties." Zhorl extended a limb. "May your digestive tract remain harmonious." Isaac shook it. "And may yours never revolt." They stood in silence until the shuttle lights blinked in the distant sky. Isaac turned, heading back to pack. There was nothing left to fix, no crises pending. Just a future shaped by an accident, a spoonful of gel, and the stubborn refusal to accept the impossible.